There is a silent world war going on right now. It's not about countries. It's not about Gaza, Ukraine, Trump, or US China relations. It's a war being fought with banks, not tanks. It's about CBDCs or central bank digital currencies. It is a war that concerns your money and your country's economy. It is being fought between two lobbies of the most influential industry on the planet, the banking industry. Thank you for tuning in. This is Nadeem. You're watching Empire Diaries. Tonight we will talk about the hidden truth behind CBDCs. For the past couple of decades, two rival factions of the banking industry have been fighting a war. Who are these two factions? One lobby controls the major central banks around the world, and the rival group controls the top commercial banks. Why are they fighting? And what are they fighting for? Central banks now want to get into the business of creating electronic money or digital money for the public. To be able to do that, they want to launch a centralized digital currency called CBDC. Through that, they want to establish a direct relationship with the public. But they have an enemy on their way, the commercial banks. That's why there is a war. So, who are the main players in this war? There are two rival groups. One group includes the largest central banks in the world. It's the group that wants to launch the CBDCs, such as the US Federal Reserve, People's Bank of China, Bank of England, Bank of Japan, Banque de France, Deutsche Bundesbank, or the German Central Bank, Central Bank of the Russian Federation, Swiss National Bank, and a few others. Here we have the RBI, or the Reserve Bank of India. The rival group includes the top commercial banks in the world. The world's 46 most powerful commercial banks are in the US, China, Germany, and Japan. The American banks in this lobby include JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. Chinese banks include ICBC Limited, Agricultural Bank of China, and Bank of China. HSBC and Barclays are two British banking giants in this war. Then there is Royal Bank of Canada, India's HDFC, Japan's Mitsubishi Group, BNP Paribas of France, Deutsche Bank of Germany, Qatar National Bank, Switzerland's Credit Suisse, and many others. It is an international lineup led by US and Chinese commercial banks. Here in India, some major private commercial banks, apart from HDFC, are ICICI, Kotak Mahindra, and Axis. The top state-run commercial banks here are SBI, PNB, Indian Overseas Bank, and Bank of Baroda. Now let's understand the war in simple words. In any economy, less than 10% of the money supply is created by the central bank and the government. It is created in the form of cash, that is paper currency and coins. More than 90% of the money supply is created by commercial banks. Commercial banks are of two types, private banks and state-run banks. So this 90% of the money created by commercial banks exists in electronic or digital form. It is basically the money we collectively have in our bank accounts, such as deposits, profits, and salaries. We have also done a detailed report on how commercial banks create new money out of thin air. Check the description below for links to the two-part report. So the central bank creates a small percentage of the money supply, but its main job is to regulate a country's monetary policy. Central banks, like the RBI here, don't deal with the public. If they want to increase the money supply in society, they direct the commercial banks to create new money. The commercial banks create it and release it into the economy through various types of loans. When it comes to creating vast sums of new money and dealing with the public, commercial banks run the show. The RBI and all other central banks have a lot of power, but only to monitor and regulate the banking industry. They can't transact with the public. Crucially, they can't create new money beyond physical cash. But now central banks, actually the network of people who dominate central banks, want to create digital money. They want a bigger role in the money creation process in society. They want to compete with commercial banks, and they're in a pole position to snatch away the market dominated by commercial banks. Central banks have come together to call this new kind of money central bank digital currencies. Basically, the plan is this. Every central bank will get into the game of directly pumping electronic money into the economy. They will create CBDCs in their respective countries and transfer the new money directly to the public. The result will be a financial earthquake. Till now, the average citizen has been dealing only with high street banks. The CBDC system will see the public deal directly with the central bank. They will be able to open personal accounts with the central bank. They can convert their existing money in commercial banks into CBDCs and transfer it to their central bank account. This is the root of the world war raging on all continents as you are watching this report. The global elites who control the biggest commercial banks are alarmed and spooked. For so many years, commercial banks have been controlling more than 90% of the money supply. Even though they follow rules laid down by central banks, they have a monopoly on the money supply and on bank accounts of the public. This traditional system is now facing a tsunami in the form of CBDC. If CBDCs become the norm, commercial banks would lose a large majority of their customer base. Bottom line is, control over the money supply will change hands. Central banks will fiercely compete with commercial banks while also playing the role of regulating the commercial banks. It's like this: the referee in a football game suddenly decides to play and score some goals himself. If somebody tries to protest or stop him, the referee shows them the red card and continues playing. This unusual disbalance has left commercial banks in panic and chaos. Let's quickly look at how CBDCs work, the weapon in this banking war. CBDC is purely a digital currency accessed by users on internet enabled phones and desktops. Just like people now have bank accounts, in the CBDC system, they will have CBDC wallets. There are two types of central bank digital currencies: wholesale CBDCs and retail CBDCs. Wholesale CBDCs will be used when central banks transact with commercial banks. It's not meant for public use. The public instead will use retail CBDCs. Retail CBDC is the money that the public will have in their central bank accounts and in their CBDC wallet. Commercial banks don't have any issues with wholesale CBDCs. That's because wholesale CBDCs won't disrupt their relationship with the public. What the commercial banks are afraid of is retail CBDC. That's the main bone of contention in this conflict between commercial banks and central banks. Because retail CBDCs will straight away kick out traditional money kept in commercial bank accounts. Basically, retail CBDCs will kill the existing money system. Their existing money will be converted to CBDCs and their personal bank accounts will switch from neighborhood banks to central banks. Due to retail CBDCs, business will be on fire for commercial banks, who will no longer get any priority from the public. In a way, central banks can use the CBDC as a financial weapon to capture the market share of commercial banks. What is happening on the ground with CBDCs? More than 110 countries are in various stages of rolling it out. China is leading the race. It has already tried out the digital renminbi. The European Union is working on a digital euro. In America and Britain, CBDCs are waiting in the wings. 5 central banks have already launched CBDCs for public use on a limited scale. There's the Sand Dollar in the Bahamas, Dcash run by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Nigeria's e-Naira is there, Jamaica's Jamdex, and Russia's digital ruble. Brazil is also running trials of the D-Rex currency. Here in India too, things are moving fast. The CBDC of the RBI is called Digital Rupee or e-Rupee. In December, many Indian commercial banks transferred employee benefits to government workers in CBDCs. In fact, last year the RBI recorded 10 lakh CBDC transactions per day. The RBI started its e-Rupee pilot project in December 2022 and it is quickly picking up pace. The central bank lobby may try to give the public incentives to move away from commercial banks. One incentive could be UBI or Universal Basic Income. UBI is a concept that says everyone in society should get a monthly salary from the government or the central bank. It won't come with any conditions. People won't need to work or do something to earn universal basic income. They will simply keep getting it. A few countries have tried out UBI on a limited scale, such as Libya, Kenya, Brazil, Japan, Israel, and Switzerland. In India, a UBI pilot project was tested in Madhya Pradesh in 2020. The World Bank and the IMF often talk about UBI, which means it is a possibility someday. German economist Richard Werner has an interesting take on the future of CBDCs. He says that it is possible that CBDC wallets won't necessarily be in mobile phones. They might come in the form of microchips implanted inside the human body. Werner says a CBDC wallet of the future could be a chip that looks like a grain of rice. It will be surgically placed under the skin between the fingers of the hand. People can make payments in CBDCs just by waving their hand near a wireless payment machine. They won't have to touch anything. Now, there is no confirmation of this future technology, but you can't ignore the warning either. Werner, after all, is a widely followed economist who created quantitative easing, a famous monetary policy concept. Central banks have been around for a long time, since at least the 17th century, and commercial banks are not new to society either. They go back by a few thousand years. Time will tell us whether central banks will shoot down commercial banks in future using CBDC as a weapon. Time will tell us how badly the public will get caught in the crossfire. Thanks for watching. Stay awake, stay informed. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon so that you get notified whenever we publish a report. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Send get updates to 98210 for news and analysis you are not told. Visit our website empirediaries.com for in depth reports and columns. Stay informed, stay awake, and think critically.